Hey there, welcome to the Compare to Who show. I'm Heather Creekmore, and I am so excited to be with my new friend, Amy Reinecke, today. Amy, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Happy New Year.
Yes. Happy New Year to you.
This time of year, there's one thing on people's minds, isn't there?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What I'd like to say that in my journey, I'm exempt from that, right? That I've had all these years of enlightenment that now I get to January and I just don't even think about it anymore. But that would not be true. I
Yep.
mean, first of all, the messages are everywhere. and and secondly, I think there is something magical, mysterious, glamorous even about this possibility that, ooh, this year I could do something in January that would
Yep.
make everything change. And
Mhm.
so that's where we're going to go today. But I would love to just start by will you just tell us your story? Because you've been on this journey for a while. And I just love to hear kind of where you've been and where you've landed.
Yeah. I do want to say in January, I think that it's our wintering season. I think it's a
Mm,
time for a lot of us of reflection, and
yeah.
I want to honor that season. I think it's important to do that, to have
Mm,
that season of reflection and what is working in my life and what isn't, what needs to change. I don't think that those conversations that we have with ourselves are ever like a bad thing as long as they're
yeah.
rooted in self-love. That's where I come from a lot. And I know that using love is something that you and I have talked a lot
Yeah.
about. And I'm really, really excited for the opportunity for me to come on and share with not only you, but also your community, just this idea of loving your body well and from the journey that I've been on. And I know that in the day and age with body positivity and all that comes with that, that telling someone to love your body well is a very loaded encouragement. But it was something that came to me. I haven't always been Love Your Body Well. The name of my brand used to be Beautifully Broken Journey.
Mm,
And I felt that was very true, but I felt like that was almost a negative connotation that I was taking into a lot of things
mm,
that I needed to shift, that I
mm,
needed to put a more positive spin on it if I was
mhm.
truly going to heal and help others do the same. So my journey actually started when I was about 10. And that is when I realized that I didn't like who I was and I didn't like what my body looked like.
Mm,
And body image has been an ongoing issue since then, to be honest.
yeah.
I started my first diet in fourth grade. So when I was 10, back then, that was, early 90s, that was acceptable. And that was something that, you know, that people did. I mean, no matter your age at that point,
Yeah.
that was the fix for
Yeah.
the issue. Even though looking back now, I know that it was just hormones. It was
Mhm.
a young girl's body who was growing and shifting and changing. And that change is what I was having a hard time recognizing.
Yeah.
I told myself that something was wrong with myself, and it wasn't. It was just developing the way that we all do at any given time. But that's one of the reasons why I love the name of your podcast, Compared to Who, because that's the rut I got in. And I stayed there for a very long time. Like you, I would like to tell you that I never have those moments anymore. And I'm completely, void of that, but that would be lying. And I'm not going to do that. But really, when I was 10, it started this journey at this war, quite honestly, with my body. And it
Yeah.
evolved into an eating disorder that I actually did not realize that I had until after I was married. So I would have been like 26 when I finally realized that I had binge eating disorder.
Mm,
I had joked that I was a bulimic who did not purge,
mm,
and there was never a name that had been put to that before.
yeah.
And I was at the gym, ironically, early in my marriage. And I was on an elliptical next to somebody that I had been connected to. Like we weren't great friends, but like we were acquaintances. And she was in grad school and she was writing her thesis on something. And she told me she was writing it on binge eating disorder. And I was like, well, what's that? So she goes into this whole explanation of it. And I can
Wow.
vividly remember the day. I can remember the emotion, the feeling. I can remember walking out of the gym like, like right before you faint, like you feel like the darkness comes in. I that's how I felt. I felt like as
Wow.
I was walking out, I can just visibly like remember like the darkness and the drive home and walking in the door, my husband sitting on the couch and him. him looking at me and I said, I think I have a problem.
Mm.
Like, I think I have a real problem.
Yeah.
And that started a journey in 2008, going to therapy and really like facing some inner demons that I had been shoving down with food for a very long time. And that journey since has been really kind of tumultuous. It's been up and down. I've had moments that I feel like I'm fine. I've had moments that I feel like I'm not fine. And I think that it's really important to me to help other women understand that sometimes we have to fight the battle more than once. And I don't
Mhm.
say that to be negative. I say that
Yeah.
to be real. Authenticity is really important to me.
Yeah.
And there have been times since 2008 that I have gone back, that I have felt that pull to binge. I have felt that body image, going back in the dumpster where it was for so many years. And it's kind of like ebbed and flowed. And
Mhm.
that's just the journey that I'm on. But the very interesting part of this conversation is at the I would say I've had a couple rock bottoms, and
Mhm.
my first rock bottom would have been in therapy. I actually gained 100 pounds in therapy.
Wow.
They had me on a lot of different medications, and it was the first time I wasn't like overly consumed
Mhm.
with like measuring and tracking and doing all the things. And my body did not know what it was doing.
Mhm.
And I was very mad at God, to
Mhm.
be honest. I was mad that why did I have to struggle with my body when my friends weren't struggling the way that I were? And even if my friends were struggling a little bit, they were still in quote unquote normal size bodies.
Mhm.
So this frustration that my body was never good enough, my body never looked like someone, like a friend. Like I
Mhm.
never liked my legs. I always found a ton of fault with who
Mhm.
I was as a person.
Yeah.
And I can remember my husband, we were raised Catholic and had not been active in going to the church because I was just angry. I was just in a very angry state. And he sat down at the kitchen table and like brought out the Bible and was like, if you're not going to go, then I want to do this. And I was so mad. I was
Mhm.
like, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to do this.
Mhm.
And he had somebody at his work who was pouring into him,
Mhm.
and who he was like, I want to be the leader of our home. I want to put Jesus
Wow.
first. Like, I want this. And so I knew that he was kind of having that like sideline journey on his own as I was in this season of anger.
Mhm.
And ironically, one morning I woke up really early and I actually had like cramps, and I was on the couch, and I'd woken up like at 5, and it was a Sunday morning.
Mhm.
And it was not an audible, like, go to church today, but it was this like intense and just this intense feeling like you need to go today. My
Mhm.
husband had encouraged us to go, like encouraged me to like try this new church with him. And I was being very resistant for several months. And that day I was like, it's time. Like, I
Mhm.
need to do this. I cannot do this on my own
Wow.
anymore. I have to
Mhm.
invite God into this story. So I went into our bedroom. I woke him up and said, I'll go with you today.
Wow.
And he is like one of those guys that's really, really hard to get out of bed. And he
Okay.
was like, what? And he like fell out. Okay, we're going. Okay, we're going. It starts in 30 minutes. We're going to go. That day changed the whole trajectory of our marriage. It changed
Wow.
the trajectory of my story. It's given me a sense that like this hasn't been done to me.
Mhm.
And there are moments that I feel like that.
Mhm.
But I always have God to lean back on, and I'm
Mhm.
thankful for that. I'm thankful for that gift of perspective that um, God does not bring things into our lives to harm us. It's
Mhm.
for the good, and sometimes
Mhm.
it's using our pain for purpose. And ironically, that's just where my story is. It's using my voice, it's using my story, it's being vulnerable about where this has led me over the years, and helping other women understand that coming to terms and having peace with where their body is, that is a journey in and of itself.
Mhm.
But we don't have to be in this season of I hate my body or I love my body.
Mhm.
There is what's called like the messy middle or the gray area. And we have a really hard time living there. We're a very
Right.
black and white society. We think that we have to stay in one box. That's a really challenging place to be for a lot of us. And I think that, we all feel like we have to like have this platform, and I have to agree with everything on this given
Mhm.
platform. And the fact of the matter is I just don't think that's very realistic. because a lot of us are very multifaceted. We have a lot of things that are important to us. And that's just something that I think I've had to learn through my own journey, through an eating disorder diagnosis, through Hashimoto's diagnosis, through hypothyroidism diagnosis. I'm dealing with a couple new diagnoses now that are, I'd be lying if I didn't say, like, I've had the question, like, why me again? Like, why do I keep having this? Why is this war here? But I think that's what the interesting thing is about what I say when I mean love your body well. And that is not like looking in the mirror and saying, I love so much that I have Hashimoto's. This is fantastic. This is like the best diagnosis ever. No, that's not what I mean, because it is not. It is saying, I'm choosing to continue to nourish and care for my body because I love this body that God has given me. And it is a way to honor him to take care of it. And loving my body is because I love Jesus and I love that I have been given the gift of my body, even if it does not always function the way I wish it would, even if it does not look the way I wish it sometimes would. And even if I have limitations that I wish weren't there, it's still choosing to make peace and to love my body well.
Yeah. And so much of it is semantics. And, you know, I also think there's some personality involved too. And as I've been on, so I wrote my first book on body image, it came out in 2017. I wrote it in 2015. So we're like almost 10 years. And I was so far from being anywhere close to saying I could love my body. That language, in addition to feeling like the way culture was presenting it was really just body pride. And I knew I couldn't align with body pride and body positivity and all those things. But just where I was in my own journey, it was like, whoa, that's a leap. For me, it was getting to the place where it's like, why does my body matter so much? And like really just kind of laying down, which really, goes with the health diagnosis too, like just surrendering, like, okay, God, like you've given me this body to care for, but ultimately it's yours. Right. And so why am I spending every minute of every day focusing on how to make my thighs smaller or how to make my stomach flatter, when really my purpose is something bigger than that you've given me, and just help me care for what you've given me in a way that I can do whatever it is you want me to do. And your ultimate goal for me isn't to wear a certain size. Your ultimate goal is for me to like love you and love others well. And so that's why I've been so like, I don't know. I joked in this one group of dietitians and body image coaches that I'm in. I'm like, I'm the love your body police. like I'm going to set this siren off. Like, don't say that. But as I've listened to you and listened to your podcast, which has Love Your Body in the title, and frankly, had my friend Stephanie Reinhold not been on your show, I might have never found you because it would have been like, oh, not her. Love Your Body stuff.
I love it.
But as I listened, I was like, oh no, she gets it. Like we're on the same page. We're just using different language. And then to kind of tie in where I was going with personality, like I'm a thinker. Right. And so for me, like, if you can like rationally, logically get me to some place, I'm going to get there. But I know that I have women listening to this show that really want to hear that love word. Right. Like they're more feelers than I am. And
I'm a feeler.
Yeah. So that's, and well, as you were describing like your transition from, because what was your old podcast called? What did you say it was?
So it wasn't my podcast, but it was my blog. It was Beautifully Broken Journey.
See, I'm like Beautifully Broken Journey. Yeah. Like love that. Like you're speaking to me, but you're right. Right. Like for so many of us, like there can be a place where you do need to make that turn to like, oh wait, no, but God's healing me. Like there's something positive here. Like it doesn't, I used to get so frustrated with mops and all the like, I'm a broken mess stuff. I forget what there was a theme, the mops year theme, like in, I don't know, 2018 or something was broken. It might have been beautifully broken. I don't know. But there was like this meme and t-shirts and everything that was like, it was like, I'm a broken mess. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, yes, absolutely. I am a broken mess. But like, I don't know if that's really what we're supposed to be advertising. Like, can't we
Right.
move on? Not that we're going to move on beyond being broken, right? But
Right.
like there's a beauty in the healing too.
100%.
And what are we focused on? So anyway, I love all that. And I'm glad we had that conversation in case any of my listeners are like, what? Someone's saying love your body on Heather's show. I don't know what to do. So,
I think it's important. I think that words matter.
yeah,
I think that words matter a lot. And I think that the way that we interpret a lot of words, you're going to take it one way. I'm going to take it one way. Somebody listening might still be like, I'm not buying the Kool-Aid, Amy. I still don't like quite understand that. Um, I think that what we have to ask ourselves is, and Stephanie is, it's funny because she actually disagreed with this, is I always say chase a feeling.
okay.
And she's like, feelings change. So once again, it's so true. But I think that one of the ways that we can love our bodies well is to truly like check in and say, how do I want to feel? Like not in like this ambiguous, I want to feel happy. Well, we all want to do that. Like that's not what I mean. Like, do you want to feel energized? Do you want to feel strong? Do you want to feel focused? Like, how do you want to feel? And are the choices that you're making on any given day, are those honoring that feeling that you want to have? It doesn't mean like, okay, I'm going to like lift weights one day and all of a sudden I'm going to feel strong. That's not what that means. Like, that's not even what we're going for. But like, how can you become more resilient to the way that you want to feel? And I think that requires us to kind of check in, which is, I think, what society doesn't want us to do, because it wants us to hit the easy button. And I am going to call it an easy button, because when we can go on a diet and you can just check,
yeah,
you're not really dealing with what's under the hood
right,
at all times. And we're not
so
dealing with the root cause of what's happening.
yeah,
And I can say that because I've done that.
yeah.
That's where my journey led me.
Right. Well, I'm thinking, so I think the way you're saying chase how you want to feel does go deeper than I would go on a diet because I want to feel thin, is what I would say,
Right.
or healthy, right? Healthy,
Sure.
thin, they're interchangeable almost now. But then if you dig below that, it's like, what do I really want? Well, I want to feel approved of. I want to feel accepted. I want to feel loved. I want to feel successful. I want to feel like you don't think I'm lazy, or I don't, for me, even I've associated with intelligence, because I feel like I live in Austin, Texas, where like everyone's a health guru. And so like, if you're the one eating carbohydrates at an event in 2020, in 2023, okay, I don't know what it'll look like by the end of 2024. Carbohydrates, I think, are coming back in style.
Hopefully.
But if you're eating carbohydrates at an event in 2023, in Austin, Texas, people are looking at you like, you must be stupid. Don't you know? Don't you know we don't eat that? And so, like, what is underneath that? I want to be thin. I want to feel thin. It's all of these other desires that aren't necessarily bad desires, but we can easily turn them into idols if we make like, I need to be approved of.
Like, I think that's what it is that at the root of all of it, we all just want to feel accepted. And I think when we are in bodies that we think other people don't approve of, then we are not worthy to hang out in certain crowds, or we're not worthy to be part of certain conversations. And all of that. Like, I am in a larger body. I was talking to you about this before we hit record, but I am in a larger body right now that there are times it is difficult for me, because that's something that I struggle with a little bit still. I'm saying that in full authenticity here. Like, that when somebody's like, well, what's your blog about, or what's your podcast about? I'm like, well, it's a wellness. And I'm in a larger body that somebody might look at me and be like, what does this lady know about health and wellness? Like, she's like technically considered obese at this point. And so I think it's really important, though, to recognize that we can't glorify fatness any more than we can glorify thinness. And the size of someone's body does not determine what they know. It doesn't determine their worthiness, because we all have a story. And that story, that's where Beautifully Broken Journey came from. It's all beautifully broken. We all have moments and times in our lives that have truly impacted us and impacted where our story goes, and then what we're supposed to do with that story. And so I had a hard time even starting my own podcast over a year ago because I was so afraid I was going to be judged because I'm in a season of trying to figure out what my body is doing, how to
Mhm.
care for it best, how to nourish it. Seeing lots of different doctors to try to help me figure that out too.
Mhm.
And knowing like you can still show up. Like your
Mhm.
story is still valuable. Your story is still important, even
Right.
if you're not exactly where you want to be or think you will be someday. Like I don't have to sit in a closet and hide
Right.
just because I'm not in a body size that society might not approve of right now.
Right.
Change your circle. Like if that's it, then maybe we're not hanging around the right people. Maybe
Mhm.
we don't have the support. Maybe you need to have some hard conversations of
Right.
my body size should really be the least interesting thing about me.
Right. Right. And I think that that is really like feeling other people's judgment, whether
Mhm.
it's expressed or not. And that's
Right.
a real thing. I also think, though, we limit ourselves a lot by what we're afraid of
Yeah.
with our size, right? I feel like mostly internal. Like I see a picture of me and I'm like, oh my word. And then I realize, oh, wait, but everyone there saw me
Mhm.
and saw me this in this body, right? Look
Yeah.
exactly like that. And no one stopped me and was like, oh, you hideous ogre. How do you think you can belong in this picture? Like no one
Or nobody
called
didn't
me
talk
out.
to you. Like,
Right. No one ignored me. They let me socialize with them and even be in the picture.
I
Apparently, they're not offended by how I
right.
look. And yet, I'm like, "Oh, I must go hide because I should never be seen like that again until I can do something about it." And I think that's why this conversation is so timely. It's January 2nd. We feel all this pressure to do something about it, to change, and I'm not saying change is bad, right?
Me either.
There are
Yep.
things in this new year like, okay, I think I'm going to try to start. And I feel like I take a addition approach instead of a restriction approach. Like
Yes.
I need to start eating more vegetables. Maybe I do need to start doing more weight training. Like there's some things I can add to my routine that
Mhm.
will help me
Mhm.
meet whatever health goals. I mean, health goals is so fuzzy now, but
Yeah.
like there are things I can do to be healthier in this body God has given me. And
Yes.
yet, if I live my life as if I'm waiting for June 1st to come, when I will suddenly be a hot body because I started lifting weights and eating more carrots, I'm going to be disappointed, aren't I, Amy?
Yeah. Yes, you probably are. And I think that that's the good and bad news, quite
Yeah.
honestly. So I started a little more to my story. In 2015, I had my second baby and I had back pain that started pretty much immediately
Mm,
upon like finding out I was pregnant, and it was debilitating. So I was very inactive that entire pregnancy, very dark days, just tons and tons of pain. I thought it was where he was sitting like
mm,
in my body, and it
okay.
turns out it was not that.
Mm.
I had a disc that, why am I blanking on this? I had a
Was it
hemorrhage
bulging?
disc.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a bulging disc between L4 and L5. And at his 6-week checkup, I finally said to my doctor, so my back pain is still here and it's like really bad. Is there something that can be done about this? And she's like, well, only like 5 to 10% of people who have back pain actually need back surgery, but we'll get an MRI just to double check.
Mm,
I did not want surgery. I had just had my second C-section. I did not want that. So when she said that 5 to 10%, I was like, well, there's no way. Like, there's no way I'm going to be the 5 to 10%. Yeah, no, I was.
mm.
Got a phone call a couple days later. You need immediate surgery,
Wow.
and you are not going to be able to bend, lift, or twist for
Mm.
like 12 weeks.
Wow. With
I
the
had a
newborn.
newborn
Yeah.
and a 3-year old.
Wow.
And that was a time in my life that I did ask the question, why me again? Like, why? Like, you're robbing me of this time with my
Mhm.
son. Um, and we made it through, but I did have a doctor who put a little bit of fear in me. And he said, if you don't get the weight off, you will end up with a second back surgery. And
Mhm.
honestly, that scared me to death
Mhm.
because it was robbing me of so much.
Mhm.
I had to hire a full-time nanny. I mean, I was a stay-at-home mom. We weren't in the financial like place to be able to like hire somebody to come in full time, but
Mhm.
you had to do that. Like I didn't have any choice. My husband couldn't quit his job because I
Yeah.
couldn't pick up my kid. I
Yeah.
couldn't care for my children. And so that fear is why I joined Weight Watchers for the last time in 2015. And on that journey, I lost 104 pounds.
Mhm.
And along the way, I could feel the old way of thinking come back, that
Mhm.
my body was the most important thing about me. Like how much I lost is what made me worthy. The way that I look is what everybody is interested in. Because when people lose weight, you get a lot of praise.
Yeah.
And I got a little addicted to that. I got like, okay, well,
Right.
I'm making everybody happy.
Right.
That's kind of, we like that. We like to make
Yeah.
other people happy. And I felt like that, like, oh, people are making a big deal about this weight loss. I'm making these people happy.
Mhm.
Well, what I quickly realized is I started developing a real sense of fear about, oh my gosh, what if I gain it back?
Mhm.
What if I gain the weight back? And what happened was when I hit my goal, it was the only time I'd ever been on Weight Watchers that I actually hit my goal. I'd been on it for like 25 years off and on, only time I'd hit my goal. But the morning I hit goal, I remember looking in the mirror and being like, you got 5 more.
Mhm.
I think you can do
Right.
5 more. And it instantly, I can remember the moment of being so honest with myself in that moment by myself. And then the panic set in and
Yeah.
said, you didn't fix it.
Yeah.
You fixed the outer shell
Yeah.
that made everyone else happy when inside for months you've been dying inside.
Mhm.
You've had so much pressure. I was
Mhm.
not sleeping because I was so focused. I was working out so much. I
Mhm.
was very restrictive with my food at given times. Not the whole time through, but I mean, when you look at what you can eat, it's not very much. And so it came this unraveling. It
Mhm.
came once again and then learning. But by this
Mhm.
point, I'd started sharing on Instagram. It
Mhm.
started my blog.
Yeah.
I told everybody how amazing it was.
Mhm.
And then I had to be honest and come out and say, I no longer align with this.
Mhm.
And that was super hard, but it
Mhm.
was super necessary for me to say, this is no longer my truth, because what I thought was fixing the problem wasn't, it was actually making it worse.
Yeah.
So in 2018, I left diet culture, promised myself I would never do it again.
Mhm.
So we're in 2024. So far I've remained true to my promise. But that does not mean that I am not focused on health goals ever. That doesn't
Mhm.
mean that I've like ignored like how to nourish my body or that exercise isn't important. It's just not an obsession. And I
Mhm.
think that that's where we get a little off track,
Yeah.
is when that is the be all end all of our life.
Right.
Like the only thing that is important today is if I get my workout in. And the only
Mhm.
thing that is important today is if I stay in my macros or my calorie count or my point count. But can I just ask you to ask yourself, what what if there were other things that were more important to you?
Mhm. Yeah.
And what if you could have health goals. You could want to exercise because it makes you feel good. You could want to eat nourishing foods because you feel good eating them, and you're more energized and you can be more focused, and maybe you don't feel as inflamed, and all of these things. But what if we did it from a place of self-love instead of a
Mhm.
place of self-hate? And
Mhm.
I think that so often when we decide that we want to make a change or we want to focus on something in regards to our health or our wellness, we do it out of this place of, I don't like my body.
Right.
I don't like my legs, or I want stronger arms. My arms are really ugly. And so I need to start lifting weights because my arms are ugly.
Mhm.
Well, what if you said instead, I really want to have stronger arms? Like, I wanna be able to pick up my kids, or I wanna be able to, go to a theme park and fit in a roller coaster, or I wanna
Mhm.
be able to go on vacation with my family and not feel super winded,
Mhm.
or I just wanna feel like I can actually get out of bed in the morning and have some energy.
Mhm.
Like, those I think are things that we can ask ourselves, like, what habits, what things can I do in my life that will allow me to live the life that I want to live?
Mhm.
And it doesn't have to be determined on your size. And
Yeah.
it's weight is such a big thing.
Mm.
And I'm not saying, there are times in your life that I think you should throw the scale away. And there are other times that I think that it's okay. I think once again, I'm very in the gray. Like
Mhm.
you're not going to like put me in one camp or the other. I'm staying firm in the gray. Like it's okay. Like it's okay if you have a healthy relationship with your weight. But it's also okay if you don't, that if you need to walk away from that. And
Mhm.
I don't think that there is like a one size fits all attitude to go with anything in health and wellness. But
Mhm.
that's what makes it so tricky, is
Yeah.
because we have so many other things going on in our lives that we just want it to be easy. We don't
Mm.
want to have to overthink it. And when somebody can hand us a plan or tell us what we're supposed to weigh or what we're supposed to do to work out, like that's easy.
Yeah.
The hard work is when we have to come at this and say, what do I actually need?
Mhm.
And to me, loving your body well is a verb actually. It's not
Mhm.
a feeling. It's coming at this from a place of what can I do today to honor my body?
Mhm.
What can I do today to make myself feel energized or strong or pick your verb? That is what I mean by
Yeah.
loving your body well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm a lot of the focus on this show is really on just the roots, right? That
Yeah.
spiritual root of why we become so obsessed, right? And so I just want to acknowledge that there are some listeners that are like, yeah, but even thinking about that makes me go to obsession. And so if that's you, don't stay, like, be on the journey that God has you on, right?
100%.
Like if you put
Yeah.
away your scale and now you're thinking about getting it out, no, 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 be on
No.
the journey that God has you on.
Yes.
And I know for myself, there have been times, I think like when I first started intuitive eating, and I know you were intuitive eating for a while too, where I really could not think about nutrition stuff in the
100%.
way that and I was kind of fighting the, like, the devil on one side, the angel on the other, right? Because I knew so much about nutrition and calories and macros and all those things, where it was like, I'm free to eat this. No, you shouldn't eat that. Don't you know how much is in that? And so for me, there was a season where I had to just combat that by throwing everything to the wind, if you
Yeah.
will, to be like, I
100%.
need to get rid of that diet mentality.
Mhm.
And then after that, not during it, right?
Mm-mm.
But after that, then I was more free to be like, you know what? I am going to do this workout because it feels good.
Uh-huh.
And I am going to choose to eat this food instead of this food because this food makes me feel better. And also, I'm going to choose to have dessert because I know that if I eat the dessert now at this party that I'm at, I won't go home and eat peanut butter and a banana and everything else in my pantry because I
Yeah.
didn't eat the one like dessert that I wanted to eat. Right. And so, but I think you're so right. It's a journey and it's like a bio unique, like bio individual
It
journey.
very much is. And I think that that whole process of what you just talked about, that is normal and that happens, but people don't talk about it.
Right.
People don't talk about what it looks like to unlearn the behaviors that
Yeah.
we've been taught or that we've done for so long. We don't talk about that unlearning, like I'm putting the scale away. I'm not looking at a single nutrition label. I'm taking off my Apple Watch. I'm doing all these things. And because I often say you have to come home to yourself.
Mm.
We can't do that when we are constantly like tracking and doing all the things. Like
Right.
we've lost sight of what's actually important. We've lost sight of what we need to do to heal.
Right.
And I think that you guys, I want you to hear me here. I've been there multiple times. It is one of the hardest things I've ever done.
Mhm. Yeah.
It is one of the hardest things I have ever done, is to like let go of all the chains
Mhm.
and just trust my body. But more than that, to trust that God had a purpose
Yeah.
in that. And I don't think I would have ever gained perspective if I hadn't gone through eating disorder therapy,
Mm.
if I hadn't gained 100 pounds in a year.
Mm.
Because at that point, what I ended up weighing was, I mean, so much more than what was my like, if you ever get to this number, your
Mhm.
life's over. I
Mhm.
mean,
Yeah.
it was God literally was like, I was in such a negative headspace.
Mhm.
God was like, I'm going to prove to you that you can survive. Like,
Mhm.
it does not all have to be surrounded by what you weigh or what you look like, Amy.
Yeah.
Like, we gotta shift the focus.
Mhm.
And so I just want to say that, like, where does your focus need to be shifted?
Yeah.
Like, are you kind of getting back in that that you're feeling like your body is the only thing, you know? And I think as women, that is just easy. It is easy to fall prey to that, to be like, well, I should be smaller, or
Right.
gosh, I'm getting wrinkles, or I'm getting gray hair, or I'm doing all this. And like, we, at the end of the day, we want to be loved. We, like you said, we want to be cared for. We want to feel attractive, and we're changing. And so can we find the beauty in the change? Can we lean into that instead of fighting it so hard? Because I don't think that God designed us to be at war with our
I
bodies
agree. Yep.
forever. Like
Right.
I know for me, like having kids gave me great perspective.
Mm.
And times when I do feel like, oh, my stomach's never looked like this before. Like this is a humbling, this is humbling. 3 C-sections later, this is a humbling place to be. And then I look at my kids, and without them, sure, my body would look very different. But I would do it all again for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just to piggyback on that, I think the coming home to yourself, I think that's how you phrased
Mhm.
it. It's got to be about so much more than, if you have a health goal, it's got to be about so much more than just weight.
Yeah.
Because I think about for myself, so I got the Hashimoto's diagnosis at 40. I went on the thyroid meds at 40. I think my journey to Hashimoto's and thyroid meds was inspired by, if not sponsored by, my 30 years of dieting. You know, when you don't eat enough calories, just slow that
Yep.
thyroid down. And I thought that my path to healing Hashimoto's, because my Hashimoto's numbers are gone now. So my Hashimoto's is healed, but my body isn't. My body was much smaller when I was
Same.
diagnosed with Hashimoto's. So it's like, I feel like we have to be so careful, especially this time of year, right? When all the messages are, you are going to be healthier if you lose weight.
Right.
Maybe there's some truth to that in some cases, but I talked on the show about how I have a bunion on my left foot. And I was so sure that it was because I was gaining weight, and that, you know, because everything if you Google it, your bunions are going to get worse. If you gain weight, put pressure on your knees, pressure on your
They
foot.
tie everything to weight.
Right, right. And so I had a sponsor on this show, Tighten Your Tinkler, that does like pelvic floor therapy. And they were like, you know, that'll help your bunion. And I was like, sure, whatever. Right. I know I really just probably it's my weight, but whatever, I'll try it. And I did it. And I haven't had a bunion in a year.
What?
And my weight has not gone down. So it's just encouragement in that story. I hope that these messages of culture coming at us saying to be healthy, change your weight, to be healthy, change your weight. Well, maybe there's other ways to be healthy in this new year. And if we focus on those, is that really, you know, weight uber focusing on our weight? Let me say that. Uber focusing on our weight, I don't think is healthy for anyone.
No, because I think that many of us, and I think especially if you're listening to this podcast on a regular basis or mine, most of us can fall into that trap of being very obsessive.
Right.
Not all women feel obsessive about their bodies. I have multiple friends who they could really care less. Like they just, you know, they just make healthy choices because they do, and they've just never had that body image issue the way that I have. And so, but if you're listening to this podcast, you've likely had some body image stuff. You're trying to work through that. And we make weight like the be all end all. Instead is that's, you know, that might be your goal, is to be in a smaller body at some point. Just, I think what we're getting at here is, instead of focusing solely on that, like picture it like one of those diagrams that, you know, it's like the circle in the middle and like the weight is in the middle. Like there's so many things that contribute to that.
Yeah.
What if you just take weight out of the center, but focus on everything around it, and just see what might happen?
Yeah.
And that is not the narrative that is shared, I think, because it's harder. It's harder to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep. It's harder to move your body each and every day in a way that is honoring. And that doesn't mean like hours and hours of cardio. It's harder to incorporate more fruits and vegetables and more protein and things like that. That's harder than just going on a diet to reduce your size,
right?
Or taking a drug to reduce your size,
right?
Like that's a harder process, and that doesn't make as much money,
Mhm.
to do all the natural things. And
Right.
we're in a day and age as women, especially, that we are so stretched thin. We
Mhm.
don't have time for the massive healing journey that
Mhm.
likely many of us need to go on. I'm on my own right now. And there have been things that have had to shift in my life,
Mhm.
and are shifting, sacrifices that I'm having to make room for the
Yeah.
healing. And
Yeah.
that is hard. Like, to say, okay, I really am at a place that I need to heal. And so I have to put more white space in my calendar.
Mm.
So things have to be
Good.
taken off the plate, to where I can sit down and I can see where I'm storing trauma in my body.
Mm.
So I can see, like, what is actually going on. So I can actually make more time for rest. So
Yeah.
I can actually, like, address my stress
Yeah.
or my emotions and things like
Mhm.
that. That's a commitment too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that was gold right there. And I'm glad that's where we're leaving it today, because that's it, right? Of all the goals you could have for this year, I think what you just laid out is is the money suggestion. Like, what do you need to make space for?
Mm.
You know, it is easy just to go on another plan, 2 shakes a day and a healthy dinner. But
Yeah.
you've been down that path before, and you know where it leads you right right back here.
Right.
Like it's
Right.
just it's a merry-go-round. It's going round and round. And
Yeah.
it's if you want to jump off it in 2024, you can, but you do have to make space for it. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that, Amy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any final thoughts for us today?
I would just ask anybody who's listening to ask yourself, what if? Like,
Mm,
what if I made a different choice than what I've always made?
mm,
Because what if that one shift in my perspective could lead me to a life of healing with my body,
mm.
healing with my journey? Like, what if today you made that different choice,
Yeah,
and you instead invited healing in, instead of like an over obsessive thought on like what your body isn't, but instead like honoring your body for just because it's your body. It has gifted you so much. It's
yeah,
gifted you the ability to sit here and listen to this podcast today, to go about your life. And it might look different than how you thought it was going to look. It's still there, and
yeah.
it's yours, and we don't get another one.
Mhm.
And so how can you care for it in a way in 2024 that will not only honor you, but honor God? And I just, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. You know where the diet's gonna lead. You know the diet may get you some weight loss,
Yeah,
but
probably so.
you know there's more to it than that.
Always.
So yeah, I love that, Amy. Well, thanks so much for being on the show today. Can you tell everyone where they can listen to your show and connect with you?
Yes. So my podcast is Love Your Body Well. You can also find me at my blog, loveyourbodywell.net, and on Instagram, I Love Your Body Well, Facebook as well. So
Awesome.
everywhere you can find me at Love Your Body Well.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Amy, for being on the show today.
Thank
And
you.
thank you for watching or listening today. I hope something today has helped you stop comparing and start living. Bye bye.